general, do you think that teenagers are good drivers?
No, definitely not. Well, actually, when I first started driving, I have a horrible attention span. I'd get distracted by the littlest thing and nearly drive into a tree or something.
Yeah, teenagers aren't very good drivers. I've gotten in a car accident with my friend before.
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
No, because my cousin was a teenager and she used to drive and she was a horrible driver. She almost crashed.
Yeah, my brother's a really good driver. He just turned 19.
I think that usually, they're good drivers unless they're under the influence of something or not being careful. In general, do you think that teenagers are good drivers?
Yeah, I do.
I think they're more scared, so they're watching more, but they got a lot of kids in the car. They're gonna do stupid stuff, so I don't know. Depends on who they're with and what they're doing.
They're good drivers, except when they want to act cool. I guess that's how you say it, because if they see a nice car or something, they always want to race it.
Some are more cautious than others. Most of the guys try to race and stuff. You know what I mean? That whole racing thing, and that leads to more accidents. And the drinking and the driving, kids don't think they'll get caught.
And a lot of them get in car accidents from drinking and driving mostly.
All my friends can't drive either. Well, I can drive, but they all speed too.
Traffic crashes are the leading cause of death for teens and young adults.
Approximately 5,000 young people die every year in car crashes, and thousands more are injured.
2 out of 5 deaths among teens are the result of motor vehicle crashes.
Drivers who are 16 years old are more than 20 times as likely to have a crash as are other drivers.
With these statistics, you wonder why they let us have a driver's license at all. John, what kind of driver are you? Where do you fall in the statistics?
Well, I'm sad to say that I fall prey to these figures. I'm right dead in the middle of it. I got in 3 accidents already. I'm only 18, but none of them are really my fault. But I'm sure if I was a more experienced driver, I would have been able to avoid them. I would have saw a way out that I didn't see because I'm not very experienced. How about you?
I've never been in a car crash in my car, but I've had some close calls, so thank God up to this point I've been pretty safe.
Yeah, thank God. Hope it continues.
What can teens do to become better drivers? And what does our faith teach us about responsible driving?
Driver's ed, do you pass the test?
That is what we'll be talking about today on our show. Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm John.
And this is Real Faith TV.
We just heard from the teens on the street about whether they think teenagers in general are safe drivers.
We will also talk with our studio guests about this.
But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Tiziana.
Tiziana just got her driver's license a few months ago.
She had a driver's permit for a year before this.
Next, she tells us about her driving experience and what she likes and dislikes about driving on New Jersey roads.
Well, my driving started when I turned 16 a year ago, last summer, when I got my driver's permit. And just a month ago, I got my license. So in that year, I had been practicing to pass the test. While I had my permit, everything seemed to go smoothly. And then once you get your license, that's when you start really experiencing other people and how it is to drive out on the road. The very first time when I got my license, I had my friend in the car, so it was a little bit exciting because, we're finally out on the road without our parents. And it was a little bit calming because I wasn't alone. But the first time I was actually alone, my heart was pounding because I was nervous I would mess up and everything like that. But now I'm comfortable on my own and it's fine. I like the fact that I don't have to call my parents from someplace to come pick me up late at night and that I can just take myself someplace. So it feels very liberating to finally be able to drive yourself someplace. I don't like the fact that there are restrictions, but I know that I wouldn't feel comfortable driving too many people around anyway. And I don't like, little things that other drivers do. They don't use their blinkers, or they tailgate all the time and they press you to speed, or just to drive differently. It kind of gets irritating. In addition to the restrictions with the license that says you can only be out until midnight, I can't stay out until 11 or 11:30, and also I'm not allowed to drive anywhere past my area until I become more comfortable and more familiar with my surroundings.
State and local laws, safe driving programs, and driver education classes all help to keep teens safe on the roads.
And parents play an important role in keeping young drivers safe.
Research indicates that 16-year-olds as new drivers have a higher rate of crashes in which excessive speed is a factor.
and crashes are more likely to occur when other teenagers are in the car.
The risk increases with each additional passenger.
And teens are less likely to use their seatbelts.
Immaturity and lack of driving experience are the two main factors leading to the risks among teens.
Let's meet our studio guests.
Today we have Beth, Ross, Vanessa, Zoe, and Bryce.
So, how do you guys rate with these statistics? Let's see by a show of hands, people that have been in an accident or used their seatbelts. Seatbelts first. Let's do seatbelts. Come on, everyone uses them. I know it. Hands up.
Yep.
Okay, who's been in a car crash? You've been in one?
Yeah, I was in one once that I was like stopped at a red light and just someone hit me from behind, and I had my permit and I was like freaking out. I was like so worried that like something was gonna happen to me because like someone else hit me or whatever. It ended up being all right, but it was scary.
Yeah, car crash is a scary, scary event. I got in a really bad one the first day of my senior year, and I got hit by a pickup truck 50 miles an hour head on, and I thought I was dead. The car just spun around and flipped around, and he hit a telephone pole, and I thank God every day that both of us just walked right out of the cars. We were fine. So it was amazing, really amazing, a miracle. And there's so many stories like that too. You know, I'm not just the only one.
Have any of you been involved in a car crash as a passenger?
Yeah. It wasn't really any driver's fault. It was more towards the weather conditions. We were driving to Pennsylvania, my family and I. I was in the back seat, and the conditions, like the snow was coming down so hard you could not even see any bit of the road. And we went over a bridge and didn't even know that we were going over a bridge at the time, and a patch of ice, and the car just went out of control and crashed into the bank.
Wow.
It was not fun,
then?
very, very scary.
It's the worst sounds ever. Oh, the sound of an accident is terrible. Let's go back to the teens on the street and find out if many teens they know have been in a car crash.
And if they consider themselves to be careful and safe drivers.
Let's check it out.
How many teenagers you know have been in car accidents?
None, actually. Two, both of my cousins. Now they're like in their 20s, but like they got really seriously damaged, like their neck and their arm and everything.
3. 2. None.
2. Around 5, I think.
I don't know, I'd say easy 5. Not many of us drive either.
4 or 5, but 1 repeatedly.
Maybe 3. At least 10, 12.
Well, me, myself, like 3 of my friends.
I know about 2 or 3 people who've been in accidents before.
This year there was like just 3 a couple weeks ago. Last year there was a few. Probably like 15 in the last 2 years.
And they're all like, they get in the accidents like the day they got the license, a couple days later.
I've never gotten in any accidents, I can say that.
No, not at all. Because I go way too fast. I already got 5 tickets.
When I have people with me, I feel I'm safer because I don't want them to get hurt. But if I'm by myself and I'm like in a bad mood, I tend to drive a little more reckless.
Yeah, most of the time. I don't really go that fast, so pretty safe.
Put my seatbelt on. Always like cautious of what's going on around me, looking in my mirrors.
I think I'm a safe driver, but I've known to do some stupid things. I mean, I'm going to admit it. I've done stupid things driving.
According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, teen drivers are more likely to be influenced by peers and other stresses and distractions.
This can lead to reckless driving behaviors such as speeding, driving while under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and not wearing seatbelts.
Our spotlight guest Tiziana tells us what are some of the distractions for teen drivers.
She also gives us some advice on how to be a safe driver.
A distraction that is definitely a major one is the cell phone. My friends, they don't really do that though, you know, because we're just starting out. But I have some older friends and my older cousins that they'll be doing that and get distracted while they're driving. And it's kind of a bit intimidating and uncomfortable when you're sitting in the passenger seat because you want them to hang up. Also, they blast loud music or things like that, but I try to stay away from that. And that's why, and with the restrictions with the law, I can only have one friend in the car, so it doesn't get too confusing. I know of a lot of teenagers that drink every weekend, and I'm pretty sure that they get into the car afterward. Luckily, nothing too tragic has happened. There's one story 2 summers ago where this girl from our school was piling way too many people into her car. They were just coming back from the beach. She wasn't drinking or anything like that, but so many people in her car, distraction, and they were all talking, and when a car swerved right in front of her, she was going on the highway, she had to swerve over to try to avoid the other car, and she ended up hitting a tree, like head on, and people flew out of the back window. She broke her arm. A lot of people ended up getting hurt. Luckily, nothing too tragic, but still enough to shake everyone up. Fortunately, I myself and none of my friends have ever been into a car accident, but I know that there's a lot of young drivers that are not very cautious of what they're doing. Like at my school last year, at our school parking lot, the speed limit is 15, but some students like to show off, so they go 40, and carelessly they were driving around the school after school one day, and they hit a girl that was crossing the street, and they broke her arm. And just little instances like that show how careless people can be. They don't respect others and they don't respect the law. For new drivers, I would say be cautious. Even when you're speeding, you don't get away with anything cool when you're speeding because you can easily get pulled over and get a speeding ticket, which costs a lot of money. You get points on your license. Little things like that when you're trying to show off. So that's why I try not to do that, because I can't afford to pay for a speeding ticket or anything like that. Well, if you're speeding, especially in an area that is not, meant to going fast, someone could easily be going slow and you could not be paying attention, just slam into someone. And you could get hurt, the other person can get hurt. Sometimes, if you're not paying attention, something could just roll into the middle of the street. A child could walk into the street, a ball, and a kid running after it. So you just have to be careful and alert all the time, or then, something sad might come out of it.
What do you guys think about what Tiziana said? Can you think of any other distractions that she missed? And
I can think of anything that she missed. I think when she said cell phone, I'm aware of that a lot. Like I'll be waiting at a light, being behind someone, and they're not going and it turns green, and it ends up they're on their cell phone. They're always distracted. And loud music, that's not really a problem for me. But just last night I was driving a friend of mine and she turned up the music, and then she was like, "Oh, is that okay? Does that distract you?" And I thought that was really nice because she was aware of that could be distracting to me as a driver.
I know one of the things that they kept on saying on The Man on the Street was that when they had their friends with them, that it was actually calming. I know that works for some people, but for other people it can be a really big distraction because you're trying to listen to the conversation, but you really should be paying more attention to the road. And I think that's a big distraction that people overlook sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, they think too much when they drive and they get more nervous, and maybe having a friend in the car, it does calm you down, just someone a light conversation with. Mm-hmm. I think that could help you.
I found when I first started driving, I was overanalyzing everything. I was getting nervous. Say I had to go on the turnpike, I'd get scared before I even went on there, and I'd be thinking of all the situations, maybe a truck was here, a truck was there. It really helped me just to relax, realize that it's just driving. If I'm careful and if I follow the laws, I should be okay. So, I just took it easy. I took a few deep breaths, said a quick prayer, and everything was fine. It took away all my distractions of being nervous and, I wasn't fidgeting and being all scared. So, just take your time and everything will be okay.
It's important to think about too, even without distractions like cell phones or other people in the car, music is weather conditions. Just a rainy night with slick, wet roads that you're not experienced to driving in could be just as fatal as your cell phone ringing in the car.
And if you're in a situation like that, call your parents or your guardians, and I'm sure, or even a friend who's maybe experienced, an 18 or 19-year-old friend who's been driving for 2 years or 3 years, make them come and pick you up, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to, because they'd see it as a sign of maturity, actually, that you're able to recognize your faults and need assistance, and I'm sure they'd come pick you up. and you go pick up your car the next day.
And when you're learning how to drive, just make sure that you pay attention to all the little things. Because I know when I learned how to drive, I was so excited to get my license that I was like, okay, hurry up, show me how to do everything. But there are, functions on your cars and things that help you when the weather is bad and do other things like that. So as long as you kind of know where everything is and you pay attention to the other cars on the road, to the conditions. Because I know sometimes my emotions can be a distraction. If I had a bad day and I'm angry, I might, drive more like a mad person than a calm person that's paying attention to the road. So you also need to be in tune with how you're feeling and make sure you don't drive in a way that would endanger yourself and others.
And don't let other people who say cut you off or whatever make you angry and make you drive like an animal, like you're in a road rage. Drive defensively. Watch out for things like that. And remember, you can look to Jesus as an example. He turned the other cheek when something happened. So you shouldn't go and try to get like revenge on a guy. And a lot of people actually do that.
I think another thing is driving when you're tired, because people can, it's really easy to just fall asleep at the wheel and just, your eyes closed, especially like if you're driving to school in the morning or, after if you have a late night out. And that's really dangerous because not only could you drive into a tree or something, but you could hit someone else.
What about drinking or doing other drugs and driving after? Do you see a lot of that among your peers?
I don't, because last summer a friend of mine passed away in a car accident as a result of what I was talking about before, like slick, rainy roads and just sheer inexperience. And I think as a result of that, our whole community, as the teens, we're much more careful. None of us want to put the community through what we went through last summer again. No, we're all pretty cautious, and none of us drink or drive or any of that because we don't want to go through that again.
It's the same situation. The school I went to, we lost 2 kids to car accidents. We lost one senior year, and the other one was one of my best friends junior year. He's still in a coma for about 2.5 years now. The day after Christmas, he got in a bad car accident, just going too fast. He might have had a beer or two, no one knows. He was coming home from his parents' house. He was going down to our other friend's house in Jackson, New Jersey, and big, windy, slick road, just snowed out, went right off the road, hit a tree, and cut his car in half. And my other friend was in the car, and now he's blind out of one eye and has a fake leg, like a metal pole in his leg, and then another one's still in the coma. So is it really worth that, Is it really worth if you had a few beers and you know that you could get in trouble if you call your parents to say, I'm sleeping here, or come pick me up? I'm sure that they'd come and pick you up rather than you be dead in a hospital bed somewhere, okay? So just remember that it's a big, serious thing. If your friends tell you, oh, it's all right, 1 or 2, you'll be fine. If you get pulled over, cops won't know. I've heard it all before. I've had many friends who have done it. I'm the first one to admit that I have friends that have done it, and it's scary. It really is scary, the consequences.
What does our faith teach us about responsible driving?
They obviously didn't have cars in Jesus' time. How can any of his teachings apply to safe driving?
Next, Tiziana tells us that her faith does help her to be a good driver.
Let's see what she had to say.
Whenever I go into the car, I try to make the sign of the cross. A quick blessing before. And also there's a St. Anthony sticker on the dashboard of my car. And so just little things like that to hopefully guide us. As a Catholic, I have learned to make important decisions and based on my faith. And I know to make intelligent decisions when I'm out in a dangerous situation. And I also learned to be considerate of others when I'm on the road and not to be too aggressive and be cautious of my passengers, of other people on the road, and to make everyone feel safe. I've learned to trust other people and to treat people as you want to be treated, and that applies also to driving because you don't want to bother other people and be annoying when you're out on the road because you don't want someone doing that to you. So I'm never tailgating anyone. I respect other people, what they're doing, and hopefully they'll respect me back. I know that when I'm driving with a friend in the car, I try not to speed or anything. I don't try to speed anytime anyway, but I want to make sure that they feel safe and want to come back into the car with me another time. So I try to remember everything that my parents taught me when I had my permit. As a Catholic, again, I have learned to make intelligent decisions when a situation becomes dangerous. So if something were to happen where I had a friend that was drinking and they wanted to drive, we know better than that now because we've grown up hearing so many things against things like that. And road rage, you look kind of dumb when you do that. And so you don't come off as a better person either when you're yelling at another driver and you're not solving anything. So if you learn to be considerate of others, as we have growing up as a Catholic, then you learn to become a better driver as well. I have friends that luckily do the same thing because we've all learned to become good people, especially through our faith. So if you're going to be a good person, you tend to be, a good person inside of the car and outside of the car as well, and one that is considerate of others, cautious, and wise when making decisions.
Can you guys think of any other ways that your faith teaches you to be a responsible driver?
Well, I agree with what John said earlier about, God said to turn the other cheek, and that's what he taught us to, turn the other cheek. And I think, if somebody cuts you off, it's important that you don't get angry and you don't want to, tailgate and turn your bright lights on. Just kind of be like, oh, okay, whatever. If you need to go somewhere and you got to get there faster than me, go for it. Just sit back and keep doing what you were doing. Mm-hmm. Don't try to, get even with the person. I think that's important.
It is very important. And it is important, to remember that, driving is not a right that's given to us. It's a privilege, and we have to respect it. And, we have to just use our faith to remember that we're in like a community of drivers, and we have to, we can't just do outrageous things like speed and cut people off and everything. And, we can ruin someone's life. Driving is very serious. We're driving a weapon.
It's important to remember, too, that the laws were set up for a reason. There's a reason that certain roads have a certain speed limit and different things like that. And those things were set up to protect us. So God wouldn't want us to break them, and we shouldn't. Otherwise, we're going to endanger ourselves. Those laws are there for a reason.
And we need the faith. We need the faith and the courage and just the power that God gives us to say, no, I don't want to drink and drive when people tell you to. And just to say, no, I don't want you coming in my car. I have to be home and I want to be safe so I can, live another day and drive another day. Because driving a car is like driving a loaded weapon, and you have to be very careful with it.
I know I bring faith through prayer. Like I pray before I get in a car, so it helps me get less hectic. I don't have to worry about the driver or other drivers, and I don't worry about my health or other people getting in an accident. I can just lift my problems up to God and say, hey, I just want your protection and guidance as this ride goes on, and it helps.
It does help. It gives you courage.
In my car, on the mirror above my seat, I have a little clip that says, "Angel of the highway, protect us."
Mm-hmm. So guys, do you have any advice for teenagers who just started driving? Any general advice?
I think the biggest piece of advice is just to always stay alert when you're driving, and just always, be conscientious of the speed limits and what other people on the road are doing around you. So, if someone doesn't indicate and cuts in front of you, you have enough space, you could stop or slow down, and just always be aware and alert and not distracting yourself so that you can make it to your destination safely.
Mm-hmm.
I know I mentioned this before, but again, weather conditions. I mean, when the roads are wet and it's raining, they're slippery, and you need to take more time for your braking distance.
My mom always told me to be a defensive driver. Don't always, look out for yourself, but also look at the car that's coming at you. Make sure he's not going to veer off or, sneeze and step on the gas too hard and hit you or something, Just pay attention to everything.
Yeah. And I know, although it seems a little overplayed, don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive at the same time, maybe even using other drugs. You don't want to drive under another influence that could distract you from paying attention to the road.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're just like lighting a cigarette, that's not a good idea, because you're going to look down and be distracted, and then you're also dealing with the issue of having like a flame.
Yeah. And there's just so many small things that are not even like in your control, A car veers like out of the way of something, an animal runs out in the middle of the road, anything. There's so many different possibilities of how you could get in an accident. You really have to be aware at all times. There's not one time, if you could be the only car on the road at 12 o'clock at night driving, or you could be in rush hour traffic at like 10 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter. Something can always go wrong. And every time that you think you're completely fine, something happens. So just be aware, be safe, drive slowly. You know what, people might make, your friends might make fun of you, but hey, it's worth it. You know that you have a better chance of living through a crash and just avoiding a crash if it happens.
And you're a lot more likely to follow all of this advice when you first get your license, but then you kind of get comfortable. And once you get comfortable in your car, you haven't been driving with your parents so much, you get used to speeding, you get used to, not being as conscientious when you're turning, when you're going to a light, things like that. And you just need to remember, as John said, that it can happen anytime, and that sometimes it won't be your fault. And you need to also respect other people's lives and not do stupid things before you drive. Don't do drugs, don't drink, and don't drive in a way that you shouldn't in a certain zone or on a certain road. Just be as careful as you possibly can, because one false move, you're driving, as John said, a weapon. It's a fully loaded weapon.
Not only will you just crash a car and kill someone, but you also ruin your life. If you're 17, 18 years old, and God forbid, maybe you had a few drinks and you went driving and you kill a child or any other person, you're going to go to jail probably, you're going to lose your license, you're going to have this hanging over you for the rest of your life that you killed an innocent person because of a stupid mistake.
It's also important to remember, you could be one of the most responsible people and accidents happen. That's why they're called accidents. It's not always because you were drinking or because you were smoking or because you weren't paying attention. An accident can truly just be an accident. So don't necessarily stress too much. There are some things that are out of your control, and as long as you're doing everything you can do to be a safe driver, then you shouldn't worry.
Exactly.
Driving is a privilege and a serious responsibility that should not be taken lightly.
Driving rules and laws are made to protect everyone on the road.
Always remember these simple rules. Don't speed.
Don't drive under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Always be alert and pay attention.
And whether you're the driver or the passenger, always wear your seatbelt.
And one other thing, make sure your parents know where you're going and when you need to be home.
Don't ignore their advice. Remember that they've been driving longer than you and have a lot more experience.
And as far as our faith goes, remember that being a follower of Jesus means imitating him and loving and caring for others.
It means acting in ways that are consistent with the mind and heart of Jesus.
This is a good thought to keep in mind as we start the car, because we are mature and responsible drivers, and we are called to make daily decisions to love and care for others.
How is your driving? Does your faith influence your driving behavior?
Tell us about it by writing to us on our website.
The address is realfaithtv.com.
Or you can contact us by phone at 609-406-7402.
And remember, the fact of the matter is, if you're a responsible person, kind and caring,
this will be reflected in your driving.
And as Christians, we strive to model ourselves after Christ in every aspect of our lives.
Driving is no exception.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time
on Real Faith TV.
God bless.
And be safe on the roads.